There is a number car dealers in this country watch far more closely than the price on the windscreen. It is the number of days a car has been sitting on the lot. And right now, across Australia, there are 10 SUVs where that number has quietly blown out to something dealers do not like to talk about. Some are cars families trusted for years. Some are badges you would call premium. One of them sold worse last year than a Rolls-Royce, and I am saving that one for the very end, so stay with me. Because the story of how it got there tells you everything about where this market is heading. Before we go any further, one quick thing. This is not financial advice. Everything I am about to give you is built on publicly available data and my own reading of it. The numbers are real, and I will point you to the sources. The conclusions are my opinion. What you do with your own money or your own car is your call. With that out of the way, let me tell you what is going on. Here is why this is happening now, because it is not random. In 2025, Australia bought a record number of new vehicles, more than 1.24 million. Sounds healthy, but the pie barely grew. Total sales were up about a third of 1%, effectively flat. And yet there are now around 68 brands and close to 400 models fighting over that same flat pie. When the market stops growing and the number of brands keeps climbing, somebody has to lose. The industry's own peak body has openly warned the Australian market is too small to carry the number of brands now competing in it, and that some will not survive. Hold that thought, because it explains almost every car on this list. There are three forces doing the damage, and I will keep coming back to them. The first is the flood of new Chinese brands. BYD, GWM, Chery, Geely, Zeekr. They undercut everyone from below with long warranties and a lot of equipment. In April 2026, BYD was reportedly signing 700 to 900 new orders a day. That is not a competitor, that is a wave. The second force is the new vehicle efficiency standard, the emission scheme that started biting properly in 2026. It penalizes car makers whose fleets emit too much, and from 2026, the brands that miss the targets get named publicly. That has already pushed prices up and killed off thirsty models. The third force is the household budget. After 3 rate cuts in 2025, the Reserve Bank reversed course and started lifting rates again in early 2026 into a cost of living squeeze, with petrol back around $2.50 a liter. Borrowing got dearer, running a big petrol SUV got dearer, and buyers got cautious all at once. Keep those 3 in mind. Chinese pricing from below, emissions rules from above, a nervous buyer in the middle. Every car I am about to show you got caught by at least one of them. Number 10. The MG ZS. The ZS still sells, but it has become something else entirely, and it is the clearest window into how this whole market now works. The ZS, and the electric version in particular, has become the clearance king of Australia, the car that taught a generation of buyers one lesson: never pay the list price. As the next generation arrives, dealers have been shifting the old build stock with heavy drive-away pricing, the kind of deal where the advertised number already has thousands carved off it. And here is why that matters, even if you would never buy one. When one brand trains the public to wait for the discount, every brand in that price bracket has to follow. That is force number 1 in its purest form. But it is also the warning sign. When a car can only move with a permanent sale tag on it, the dealer is telling you something. That is the gentle end of this list. The next one does not just need a discount, it needs the orders to come back at all. Number 9. The GWM Tank 300. This chunky, retro off-roader from Great Wall Motors is still selling, but watch how. Through 2025 and into 2026, the tank range has leaned hard on run-out campaigns. $2,000 off the drive-away price. Finance under 2%. And that phrase in every ad that tells you everything. While stocks last. Here is the thread that runs through this whole video. The discount is the symptom, not the disease. When a brand is moving stock comfortably, it does not need to throw $2,000 in cheap finance at you. The fact that GWM is clearing 2025 build tanks with those offers tells you the stock was backing up. And a heavy petrol 4-wheel drive is exactly what the emissions scheme is built to punish, in a market where fuel is $2.50 a liter. Remember, the discount is symptom idea. The next time it appears, it is on a car that costs more than 3 of these. Number 8. The Cupra Tavascan. Now we move up the price ladder, and this gets more interesting, because the Tavascan is a brand new car, not old stock. It is Cupra's electric coupe-styled mid-size SUV, the Spanish brand owned by Volkswagen Group, meant to be a statement. Instead, it has been a trickle. In its first half year on sale, it managed something like 170 deliveries. And here is the uncomfortable part. Cupra's actual sales volume in Australia has been propped up not by new models like this, but by run-out fire sales on its older cars, slashing nearly $20,000 off the outgoing electric hatch to clear it. So you have a fresh, premium-priced, Chinese-built electric SUV landing into a market where buyers have gone cold on expensive EVs, and cheaper Chinese rivals are doing the same thing for less. This is the trap for the mid-tier European brand in 2026. Too dear to fight the Chinese on price. Not established enough to charge like the Germans. Caught in the middle. And being caught in the middle is exactly what kills the next brand, except that one used to be the smart buy in the whole market. Number 7. The Škoda range. Led by the Karoq SUV. Škoda had the single largest one-year sales decline of any Volkswagen Group brand in Australia in 2025, down well over 15%. Why does that matter more than the percentage? Because of what Škoda was supposed to be. For years, it was the insider's tip. The value brand inside Volkswagen Group. European engineering, much of the same hardware as a VW, without the VW price. In 2026, that pitch has collapsed. A new Karoq now starts at over $46,000 drive away in most states. For that money or less, you can drive away in a brand new, fully equipped, fully warranted Chinese hybrid SUV. So the value brand is no longer the value. Chinese rivals undercutting from below, compliance costs pushing prices up from above, both forces on the same car. And here is a point I will come back to, the single most useful idea in this video. The warning signs always show up in the trade-in price before they show up anywhere else. By the time a brand's trouble is in the headlines, it has been in the auction prices for a year. The owners find out last. Now let me flag where this is going. Everything so far has been price pressure. Cars that can still sell, just not at the price the maker wanted. From here, it gets more serious. The next group is about brands whose dealer networks are quietly shrinking underneath them. And that is a different kind of problem, because a discount costs you nothing. A shrinking service network costs you for as long as you own the car. Number 6. The Mercedes-Benz EQS, the big electric luxury sedan, meant to be the electric S-Class in spirit, and its collapse in Australia is striking, not a percentage decline. 6 deliveries for the entire year. A car that sold in the 70s, then the 60s, then 20, then flatlined at 6. And here is what makes it revealing. This is not a cheap car nobody noticed. It is a flagship from the most established luxury brand in the country, and the public walked straight past it. Mercedes-Benz's own design chief has admitted it was poorly positioned. The EQS is the clearest evidence that the big, expensive electric bubble has deflated. In a high-rate economy with nervous buyers, the appetite for a six-figure electric barge has evaporated. And if it can happen to the EQS, with all of Mercedes behind it, hold that thought, because it is about to happen to 2 more luxury electric models that sold even worse. But first, the brand that proves a shrinking network is not just a luxury problem. Number 5. Honda, specifically the cars most Australians actually own, the CR-V and the HR-V. Honda is not leaving Australia, let me be clear. But what has happened here is the structural warning the whole industry should study. In 2018, Honda sold more than 40,000 vehicles a year in Australia. By 2025, that had fallen under 15,000, the worst year on record on data going back to 1997. What happened? In 2021, Honda forced its dealers onto a fixed-price agency model. Dealers became agents. Honda set the price. Full stop. Long-standing dealers walked away. Several took legal action, and the courts have ruled against Honda Australia in dealer disputes, with compensation awarded to dealers forced out. Think about what that means if you own a Honda from a few years back. The dealer who sold it to you may not exist anymore. The network that services your car is smaller than it has been in 20 years, and resale values have tracked that contraction straight down. A cheap deal helps you the day you buy. A shrinking network works against you every year you own the thing, and nobody sends you a letter to tell you it is happening. Keep that in mind, because the next 3 take this to the extreme. Number 4. The Jeep Compass. This is the slow-motion collapse of an entire brand. The Compass fell about 70% in 2025, down to 147 units for the year, having once been Jeep's bestseller at well over 1,000. But the percentage is not the real story. Jeep as a whole had its worst year in Australia since at least 1997, and the Compass cannot recover because its replacement is not due until late 2026. The dealers have an old model nobody wants and nothing fresh to replace it. Why? Force 2 and Force 3 at once. Jeep's parent, the giant Stellantis Group, has been through brutal global losses, charges running into the tens of billions, forcing a savage reshuffle of which brands survive. And in Australia, an old thirsty range running into the new emissions rules, and a cautious buyer was never going to win. But the Compass is only half the Jeep story. The other half used to be the most popular large SUV in the country. Number 3. The Jeep Grand Cherokee. For years, this was Australia's best-selling large SUV, a household name, and in March 2025, Jeep withdrew it from the Australian market. Officially, the word was paused, but the wording was a good deal more final than that. They talked about right-sizing the portfolio. In plain English, the numbers stopped working. It was killed by a perfect storm, the exact storm I told you to watch for. Rising prices partly from emissions rules that punish big petrol vehicles. Falling demand as nervous buyers stopped reaching for expensive, thirsty SUVs. An apparent company in financial turmoil deciding which badges to keep alive. All three forces on one car at one time. 29 years on sale in this country. Gone. And if you own one, you are now driving a car whose maker has pulled it from the market, while the dealer network that supports it shares floor space with other struggling brands in the same group. Now remember, at the start I said one of these sold worse than a Rolls-Royce. We are almost there, but the car at number 2 had to sell badly first because it sets up the punchline. Number 2. The Kia EV6. I put this 1 second deliberately because it is the most instructive failure on the list. The EV6 is Kia's flagship electric SUV, a genuinely well-regarded car, a former award winner. In 2025, its sales collapsed about 80%, from nearly 1,800 units down to around 348. Normally, a number like that means the market. Chinese rivals, emissions rules, nervous buyers, but the EV6 is different. It was not killed by a competitor, it was killed by Kia. Kia launched its own cheaper electric SUV, the EV5, and that car ate the EV6 alive from the inside. The buyers did not leave the brand, they just walked across the same showroom to the cheaper model, and that proves something important. In this market, in 2026, even a good car from a strong, growing brand with no network problem at all can fall off a cliff in a single year if the price and timing are even slightly wrong. That is how unforgiving this market has become. So if it can happen to a Kia flagship everyone admired, what does the floor look like for a luxury electric SUV almost nobody had heard of and almost nobody could afford? This is the one I promised you at the very beginning. Number 1. The Lexus RZ, the car that last year sold worse than a Rolls-Royce in Australia. Here is the number, because it is almost hard to believe. 41. 41 examples of the Lexus RZ were sold in this entire country across all of 2025, a run rate of about 3.5 cars a month nationwide, down roughly 81%. More Rolls-Royces found Australian buyers last year than this Lexus electric SUV, a car from Toyota's luxury division, the most trusted name in the business in this country, outsold by a hand-built British limousine that costs the better part of $500,000. How does that happen? Everything in this video comes together in one car. A mid-size electric SUV that started over $121,000, offering only middling range, landing into a market flooded by Chinese electric SUVs with more range and more kit for a fraction of the money, in front of a buyer gone cold on expensive EVs, in an economy where money had just gotten dearer. Every force I named stacked onto one badge, and here is the tell that confirms the diagnosis. For 2026, Lexus has significantly cut the RZ's starting price and upgraded the car. More power, more range. When a maker as conservative and proud as Lexus quietly drops a price and rushes through an upgrade, that is not marketing. That is an admission. The original was unsellable. The numbers forced their hand. So let me bring this together because I told you the most useful thing would come at the end. Every car here, from the discounted MG at number 10 to the Rolls-Royce beating Lexus at number 1, has one thing in common. The trouble was visible in the data long before it was visible in the showroom. Dealer count, service network, parts lead times, and above all the trade-in offers. Those are the leading indicators. The sales charts and press releases are the lagging ones. By the time a brand admits it is in trouble, the wholesalers knew, the auction houses knew, the dealers knew, the owners, the people who did everything right, find out last. So here is what you can do today, and it costs nothing. Go to a free valuation site like Redbook. Pull the trade-in figure for your specific car. Write it down, come back in 6 months and pull the same figure again. If the gap is bigger than normal depreciation for your type of car, the market is not just aging your car, it is pricing in the contraction of your brand. The benchmark is the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, which holds somewhere around 80% of its value at 3 years, precisely because it is the car this market trusts most when everything else is uncertain. That is not an accident. That is the market telling you where the safety is. Now, I have given you the 10 that are struggling, but there is a flip side almost nobody talks about, and it is the more interesting question. A car being slow to sell is not the same as a car being a bad buy. Some of these slow sellers, the ones with a discount problem rather than a network problem, are quietly becoming the smartest value on the entire market, if you know which is which. There is one model on a list very close to this one that I would buy tomorrow at the right price, and one I would not touch even at half off, and the difference is not the badge. It is something most buyers never check. I have broken down exactly which slow sellers are secret bargains and which are traps in the next video. On screen now. Have a look at the data before you make a move on anything. Because in this market, in 2026, the difference between a clever buy and an expensive mistake comes down to one thing: reading the numbers before everyone else does.